Picture this. You have a deadline. Big one. Project due tomorrow morning. You started late. Your fault. You know it. You're not proud of it. It's 2 a.m. You've been awake since 6 a.m. yesterday. 20 hours. You're tired but functional. Coffee is helping. You can do this. 4 a.m. 22 hours. The coffee stopped working 2 hours ago. You're making mistakes. Small ones. Fixing them. Moving forward. 6 a.m. 24 hours. You watch the sun come up through your window. There's something wrong with how it looks. Too bright. Too sharp. Like the contrast has been turned up on reality. You keep working. 10 a.m. 28 hours. Your colleague asks you something. You answer. Then you realize you have no idea what you said. The words came out, but you weren't there when they left. 2 p.m. 32 hours. You see something move in your peripheral vision. You turn. Nothing there. 6 p.m. 36 hours. You're in a meeting. Someone is talking. You understand the individual words. They just don't connect into meaning anymore. 10 p.m. 40 hours. You look at your hands. They don't feel like your hands. Oh, hey there. Welcome back. I'm your host. Dead, obviously. 8 hours of sleep per night. 0 nights of anything. Maximum clarity on exactly what happens when you refuse to let your brain do the one thing it literally cannot survive without. Today we're talking about sleep deprivation. Specifically, what happens to your brain and body when you push past 40 hours without sleep. Because most people think sleep deprivation means being tired, being groggy, maybe a little irritable. They're wrong. 40 hours without sleep doesn't just make you tired. It makes you temporarily psychotic. It impairs your brain more than being legally drunk. It causes hallucinations. It shuts down your immune system. It physically damages your neurons. And in extreme cases, it kills you. And you've done this. Probably more than once. Probably thought you were fine. Let's find out what your body is actually doing when you haven't slept for 40 hours. So why does your body need sleep at all? And what is actually happening in your brain while you're awake for 40 straight hours? Here's what most people don't understand about sleep. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is not your body doing nothing. Sleep is the most metabolically active maintenance period your brain ever gets. While you sleep, your brain is doing things it absolutely cannot do while you're awake. The most critical is a process called glymphatic clearance. Your brain has its own waste removal system called the glymphatic system. During sleep, particularly deep sleep, the cells of your brain actually shrink by about 60%. This allows cerebrospinal fluid to flow through the spaces between cells, washing out metabolic waste products that accumulated while you were awake. The most important of these waste products is a protein called beta amyloid, the same protein that accumulates in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. Every hour you're awake, beta amyloid and other toxic proteins build up in your brain. Sleep washes them out. No sleep means no washing. The toxins accumulate. Your brain also uses sleep to consolidate memories, process emotional experiences, regulate hormones, repair cellular damage, restore neurotransmitter supplies that were depleted during the day, essentially rebuild itself for the next day. When you don't sleep, none of this happens, and your brain starts running on a system that is progressively more toxic, more depleted, and more damaged with every passing hour. The system that tracks your need for sleep is called sleep pressure. A chemical called adenosine builds up in your brain throughout the day. The longer you're awake, the more adenosine accumulates. Adenosine binds to receptors in your brain and makes you progressively more sleepy. Sleep clears adenosine. That's actually what caffeine does. It doesn't give you energy. It blocks adenosine receptors temporarily. The adenosine is still building up. You just can't feel it until the caffeine wears off and it hits you all at once. At 40 hours without sleep, your adenosine levels are catastrophically high. Your glymphatic system hasn't run in 2 days. Your neurotransmitters are depleted. Your stress hormones are elevated. Your immune system is compromised. And your brain is starting to do things that brains are not supposed to do while a person is technically awake. All right, let's go hour by hour, because this is where it gets genuinely disturbing. Hours 0 to 16, the normal zone. You feel tired. Normal tired. Your reaction times are slowing. Your attention is drifting. Your mood is slightly worse than usual. This is standard. This is what everyone experiences at the end of a long day. Nothing alarming here. Your prefrontal cortex is starting to work harder to maintain the same level of performance. It's compensating. You don't notice the effort because the compensation is invisible. Hours 16 to 24. Performance cliff. This is where the research gets uncomfortable. At 17 hours without sleep, your cognitive performance is equivalent to a blood alcohol level of 0.05%. That's the legal limit in many countries. You are functionally impaired to the level of being mildly drunk, but you don't feel drunk. You feel tired, which is more dangerous because you don't compensate for impairment you can't perceive. Your reaction time is slowed by 50%. Your working memory is compromised. Your emotional regulation is degrading. Things that wouldn't normally bother you are suddenly intensely irritating. Your amygdala is becoming hyperreactive, and your prefrontal cortex is too depleted to regulate it. You make decisions you wouldn't normally make, say things you wouldn't normally say, miss things you would normally catch, and you think you're fine. That's the cruel part. Sleep deprivation specifically impairs the self-monitoring capacity that would allow you to notice you're impaired. You don't know what you don't know. Hours 24 to 32. Entering dangerous territory. At 24 hours without sleep, your cognitive performance is equivalent to a blood alcohol level of 0.1%. That's legally drunk in every country on Earth. You are more impaired than the legal driving limit. While driving, which many people in this state are doing, your body's stress response is in full activation. Cortisol levels are elevated significantly. Your inflammatory markers are up. Your immune system is actively being suppressed. Studies show that after 24 hours without sleep, your natural killer cell activity, the immune cells responsible for fighting viruses and cancer, drops by 70%. But here's where it gets strange. Something else is starting to happen at around the 24 to 32 hour mark. Something that most people who pull all-nighters don't expect. Microsleeps. Your brain starts taking sleep whether you give it permission or not. Not full sleep. Microsleeps. Episodes of 2 to 30 seconds where your brain waves shift into sleep patterns. Your eyes may stay open. You may remain sitting upright, but you are not conscious. Not processing information. Not in control. You don't know these are happening. That's the terrifying part. You're driving. You're operating machinery. You're having a conversation, and for 2 to 30 seconds, you are simply not there. Your brain went offline without telling you. Hours 32 to 40. The brain starts breaking. At this point, you're in territory that most people never reach. And the things happening to your brain at 32 to 40 hours without sleep are not the same as just being very tired. Your perception of reality is starting to malfunction. Sensory distortions begin. Objects look slightly wrong. Distances are misjudged. The edges of things seem too sharp or too soft. Colors look slightly off, like someone has adjusted the settings on reality but got them slightly wrong. Emotional dysregulation is severe. Minor inconveniences feel catastrophic. Small frustrations feel like major crises. Your brain's emotional processing system is so depleted, and your prefrontal cortex is so compromised that you have almost no ability to regulate your own emotional responses. You might cry about something trivial. You might feel intense, irrational anxiety. You might feel nothing at all, a strange emotional flatness, and then the hallucinations start. Not dramatic full-scene hallucinations, not at 40 hours, but brief, specific, real enough to fool you. Movement in peripheral vision. You turn. Nothing there. A sound that nobody else heard. A voice that wasn't speaking. A face that appeared for half a second in a doorway. These are not metaphors. These are not exaggerations. These are documented, reproducible, measurable phenomena that occur in virtually everyone past the 30 to 40-hour mark of sleep deprivation. Your brain, starved of the maintenance and waste clearance that sleep provides, is starting to generate false sensory data. It is hallucinating. While you are technically awake, at 40 hours, as we've established, you are somewhere between tired and temporarily psychotic. Your hands don't feel like your hands because the brain regions responsible for body awareness and proprioception are misfiring. Your sense of self is becoming unstable because the default mode network, the brain network, responsible for your sense of continuous identity, is fragmenting. So what does this actually feel like from the inside? The most consistent thing people describe about extreme sleep deprivation is the unreality, not tiredness, unreality. The sensation that the world has become slightly wrong, slightly false, like a very good copy of reality that has some small errors that you can't quite identify. People describe thinking in fragments, sentences that don't complete, thoughts that start and disappear before they arrive anywhere. The experience of trying to follow a line of thinking and finding that the line simply ends mid-air. The emotional experience is described as being at the mercy of everything, completely unable to maintain emotional equilibrium. One person described it as having no skin. Everything that touches you goes straight to the nerve. Another said it felt like being a very tired child, unable to modulate your own responses, unable to stop what you're feeling from showing on your face. The hallucinations, when people realize they're having them, produce a specific and very unsettling feeling. Not fear exactly, more like a fundamental loss of trust in your own perception. If that shadow moved and there was nothing there, what else are you seeing that isn't real? Your brain is supposed to be the thing that tells you what's real, and it's lying to you. Here's where the numbers get serious. The Centers for Disease Control classifies insufficient sleep as a public health epidemic in the United States. Approximately 35% of American adults regularly sleep less than the recommended 7 hours per night. 1 in 3 people. Drowsy driving causes approximately 6,000 fatal crashes per year in the United States. More than alcohol, more than drugs. Tired driving kills more people than drunk driving. But we have drunk driving laws and sobriety checkpoints, and we treat impaired driving as a moral failing. We treat tired driving as just life. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster happened at 1:23 a.m. after operators had been awake for an extended period. The Space Shuttle Challenger decision was made by managers who had been awake for over 20 hours. The Exxon Valdez ran aground due to a sleep-deprived crew. Sleep deprivation has shaped history in ways that most history books don't mention. And the long-term effects. Chronic sleep deprivation below 6 hours per night is associated with a 13% increased risk of mortality from all causes. It is associated with significantly elevated rates of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, depression, and dementia. The beta amyloid that accumulates in your brain during sleep deprivation is the same protein that forms the plaques of Alzheimer's disease. Every night you don't sleep enough, you're making a small deposit into an account you don't want to have. So there you have it. 40 hours without sleep. From tired to temporarily psychotic in less than 2 days. From a person who makes good decisions to someone who is hallucinating, emotionally dysregulated, cognitively impaired to the level of being legally drunk, and completely unable to perceive how impaired they are. Here's the thing though, your brain wants to sleep. It is trying to sleep. It is taking microsleeps without your permission. It is doing everything it can to get the maintenance it needs. The only thing stopping it is you. Sleep is not laziness. Sleep is not a luxury. Sleep is the most productive thing your brain does in any 24-hour period. It is literally cleaning your brain, consolidating your memories, regulating your hormones, and rebuilding the neurochemical systems that allow you to function as a human being. Every hour of sleep you skip is a debt, and unlike financial debt, your brain charges very high interest. Hit subscribe if you want more videos about what your body does when you push it past what it was built to handle. I've got plenty of material. I'm dead. I've got nothing but time and an extremely detailed understanding of what happens when humans refuse to take care of themselves. And hey, if you're watching this at 3 a.m. because you can't sleep or won't sleep, put the phone down. Close your eyes. Your brain will thank you in ways you'll never fully understand. Trust me on that one.